Welcome to our podcast, Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. I'm your host, Graham. The aim of this podcast is to showcase doctors' relocation journeys to Ireland. So whether you're a doctor interested in the move or just curious about life in Ireland, this is the podcast for you. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. Today, our guest is Saema Saeed. Thank you, Samea, for coming on the podcast today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Graham.
You've got such an interesting story. We've known each other for quite a number of years. We only ever crossed paths at the annual Irish Emergency Medicine Association conference. And last time we saw each other was in Killarney a short while back. And I pinched you to say, come on to the podcast because you've got such an incredible story. So where does it all begin? Where did your whole journey to Ireland begin?
I've been in Ireland. This is my 7th year starting in Ireland. So I've been here a while. I started off, I came from Karachi, Pakistan. That's where I graduated. I grew up in Abu Dhabi, though, not Pakistan, oddly enough. So I only moved to Pakistan for med school. And then was kind of stuck on what I wanted to do. So after graduating in 2011, I was kind of looking at different things, renal medicine, respiratory medicine, and I was actually working in the ICU as a standalone SHO when a friend of mine who lived in Galway convinced me to move to Ireland and said it was a great place to move. I applied, and I think that was it would have been 7 years ago, and I got a job in Cork. For all the places I applied. It was a relatively easy process enough for me. I think back then there wasn't as much of a competition for jobs, I think.
Sure.
So it was, I didn't have, I think I got my job maybe 3 or 4 months after I got my IMC registration done. So it was fairly quick. And I was lucky enough to get a job as a standalone reg in an injury unit in Mallow in Cork. It was very different from anesthetics, but look, I was like, I'll give it a go, see how it pans out. I came to Ireland, and I had never been to Ireland before in the past. So it was.
What was that like? What was your initial impression?
So it was very cold and very wet. Was my initial impression.
You're leaning on the obvious ones, okay?
It is true. Like I grew up in a country. I was born and raised in a country where, well, it's sunny pretty much all year round. I never owned a raincoat before I moved to Ireland, so that was strange.
Yeah.
But then I did fly here, and I was lucky enough to meet some amazing people. So my first supervisor, I think he picked me up on my first day and gave me a little tour of Mallow and Cork City, which was absolutely lovely.
Okay.
Showed me Blarney Castle and Blarney Stone. Well, told me stories about Blarney Castle and Blarney Stone. And the people that I met were also accommodating, so nice, so welcoming. So it was very lovely.
Yeah.
So I started in Mallow then as in the injury unit as a registrar. Worked there for, I want to say 7 months before I wanted to make a change to emergency medicine. And that led me to Cork City, initially to the Mercy Hospital, and then Cork University Hospital, which I consider the mothership. And I stayed there for 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I applied for training in emergency medicine in Ireland. So I don't know if people are aware. So the training program in Ireland is roughly around 7 years for different specialties. So you either do 3 years of core training or 2 years of core training, followed by either 4 years or 5 years of advanced specialty training. It's a lot easier now to get onto training compared to when I applied first, because especially for doctors who are coming from abroad, given that you're on your immigration permissions. So either you come in on a stamp 1, and for training, the training bodies would only. So the way you would get a training post is the slots for training posts. They would ideally be first given to Irish trainee people of Irish origin, followed by European, EU citizens, and then you'd get your stamp ones and the stamp fours. So it was really hard to get onto training, and I unfortunately did not wasn't able to get onto training initially, despite doing really well on my interviews. However, I kept going at it. I got all my sign offs done in court thanks to my amazing consultants there, and they gave me the
Shout
necessary
out to Prof
training to
Connor
do what.
DC as well, right?
Yes, Prof. Connor DC. So
Yes.
they gave me the necessary training and the sign offs through which I was so you've got two pathways, training pathways in Ireland. You could do the official training pathway through the different colleges in Ireland, or you can do an alternative pathway where you get your own sign offs and at the end of it and do your own kind of training modules, courses whatsoever, and then get signed off. And then there's another body which will kind of go through all your documentation and then eventually sign you off as a consultant if they're satisfied with your progress working in Ireland. That is what I was doing. I kind of decided to apply for advanced specialty training directly, and which is really difficult to get onto, especially for a foreign grad. But like I said, I had people who supported me, people who helped me through the process, and I was actually able to get onto advanced specialty training directly and managed to kind of like skip 2 years of core training. So it was
Amazing.
brilliant. So yeah, so
Yeah.
currently now I'm third year a specialist registrar in emergency medicine with nearly 1.5 years left to go before I'm a consultant. So that's
Yeah.
grand. It's
And
really great.
you're
Yeah.
definitely not counting down the days on your calendar there until
And
you're a consultant. Look,
cannot
you
wait.
you highlighted, depending on the time, two big differences. Like you said, when you moved here, there was less competition to come in for standalone positions, so you probably had your pick of places. But then at that time, it was harder for IMGs or international medical graduates to get onto the training program. Come present day, there's so much more competition. The Irish Medical Council registration process is a heck of a lot longer because of that. And then, as I said, there's more competition for standalone posts. That said, there's more availability on the training program. So there's pros and cons of those two different times, aren't there, in terms of accessing the system. But for you, you went a couple of routes, didn't you? But ultimately got to where you wanted to be, and that's on the training program.
Yeah. So I think the important thing was I kind of never stopped. So I knew I'd been told it would be very difficult for me to get into the training program without either a stamp for or a Irish passport. But I knew that there was another pathway available, the alternative pathway, even though that is very difficult to do as well. But I kind of kept going at it, so I had a backup plan in place. When I didn't get on the first time during the first set of interviews I did for core training, I kept going with my sign offs. I did a standalone ICU rotation, did a standalone pediatric emergency medicine rotation, which is part of your sign offs for your alternative pathway, anyhow. And while I was doing that, I kept applying for training. So I didn't stop at any stage. I was like, oh, fine, I'll stop. I'll try again next year. During that gap, before the next set of interviews, I kind of kept advancing, kept doing more courses, did a post grad in a geriatric emergency medicine, geriatric medicine, did a Lean Sigma black belt course as well. So I kind of kept going. So by the time the next year rolled in, I had enough experience under my belt to actually apply for advanced specialty training instead. So it's kind of
Okay.
like it's really important having a backup plan, and that kind of helps a lot, and knowing having the right people to kind of have your back and kind of support your career progression, it's really really important.
Yeah, and that was what I was actually going to lead on to nicely in that. And this is something we encourage all of our new doctors coming into the system, and that is finding your mentor, finding your ambassador. And so whether that be your clinical lead or the head of department to bat for you, to help you, whether you go the unofficial route and get them to support you with accreditations and getting sign off on research or publications or different audits, all working towards helping you as best prepared as you possibly can to get onto the training scheme. And by the sounds of it, you found that person there in Cork who's able to support you along that journey and reach where you want to reach. So you're a short few months away from being a consultant, and who knows, you could also be that mentor for someone else who's following in your footsteps.
And that is again very important, having been through that process, you know, having the necessary information and the experience to guide people who are coming in, who are coming to Ireland, for the same purpose as
Absolutely.
well, to advance their career. It's very crucial, very important, because sometimes it's very difficult getting the right information, and it's so important having knowing the right people who can give you the necessary advice, the necessary help you, get the necessary tools and everything to advance your career, because the ultimate goal is, you're moving to Ireland for a better life, for a better career, for a better future. So there are so many doctors I know, especially foreign grads and IMGs, who move to Ireland, but then realize that there are so many obstacles, and then eventually, like in maybe 2 or 3 years, they move to the UK, just because it's a bit more easier getting training in the UK. It is difficult in Ireland, but it is not impossible. The training bodies have made so many changes that have actually, I think, kind of improved the process. So back when I applied, with that kind of, it was, I call it like a hierarchy system. Like you had your Irish trainees, your EU trainees, then you had your IMGs, the stamp fours, and then the stamp ones. So they've kind of leveled the playing field now at the top, where everyone is on at the same kind of level. So you've got a better chance at getting onto a training program. Yes, there are more candidates, so there's more competition, but at least there are some obstacles which have been removed. So if you've got good experience behind you, you've got a great CV, you've got good audits, research, like you have as good a chance of getting onto a training scheme as an Irish graduate or an EU graduate now. So like that's brilliant.
And that last snippet there is just, it's gold for anyone listening to this, because it is very accessible now. And you're right to point out, it was very biased towards Irish and European graduates before, for all the wrong reasons. And now, finally, our current health minister has recognised that it's only right to open it up to a wider pool. But ultimately, yeah, having that Irish experience starting off definitely helps get along on that journey. Can we bring ourselves back to when you first moved here culturally? How did you find it in comparison to even Abu Dhabi or to Pakistan? How did you experience that first time around?
So it is definitely different.
Yeah,
Having grown up in Abu Dhabi, I think kind of helped a lot. Like coming from Pakistan is a more conservative society. But I did not find it that difficult to adapt myself, because I don't know, having grown up in Abu Dhabi, and the way we were brought up as children, we kind of had a more kind of liberal approach to everything. So I actually fit in really easily. I didn't have a lot of problems. The only, I think, the biggest problem I had was probably not so much the culture, but probably the other small things, the weather, the climate, that was it. But then you kind of get used to it. You will find that people coming from Pakistan, like just given that it's a more conservative upbringing over there, can find it a little bit difficult adjusting in with the Irish colleagues. But look, that's all part of the journey,
yeah,
it's a new experience. You're meeting new people, and it's just, it's I never let that hold myself back. And I love all the friends, the people I met here, the new friends I made. So it's a very good experience, and it just makes life so much better. So that's one thing I would tell people moving, or coming to Ireland from abroad, is to kind of, not be closed-minded, and have an open mind, integrate within society.
sure.
It makes it so much better, and it gives you such a richer experience. And I think it's probably one of the best decisions I made moving to Ireland.
Yeah, amazing. What a piece to share there too. I guess, was there anything that, and we've crossed the weather bridge numerous times here, but anything that surprised you when you moved here?
Ooh, so I guess coming from, you having a Muslim background, you always hear about these stories in the news where, okay, there might be a bit of racism moving to a new country, particularly when you hear about the UK, especially with what's going on in the world these days. That could have been a concern. So I was really, really surprised when I moved to Cork. I had previously done electives in the States, in Texas. You could see that closed mindedness. You could see that little bit of, that undertone of racism, or, people not as accepting of your background. But it was really, really, I was very surprised when I moved to Ireland. Or maybe it was Cork. I know I'm biased when it comes to Cork, but everyone was just so welcome and they wanted to know about you. They wanted to
Yeah.
know about your culture. They would be so happy to hear all of this stuff. So that was the one surprising thing where I actually they welcome you with open arms, and that was just absolutely lovely. I don't think I've actually ever seen that when I kind of worked in the States, or when you travel to other countries. It was very different in Ireland.
Yeah.
Really surprising as well.
I think it's that innate curiosity we have as a land known for emigrating for centuries, and then being here ourselves and welcoming others in from all different cultures. Biasly speaking here, obviously, Samia now speaking as a stereotypical Irish person with red hair and pale skin and freckles, but we do have, and hopefully you'll be able to agree with me here, we do have quite a mix of cultures, right? We do have quite a diverse community here, not just within the medical community, but the wider population at large, and not just in Cork, because I know you're very biased to Cork and you have a very strong love of Cork for obvious reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on and jumping into our quick fire round, and that is just to, seeing as you are Irish, you've been here for so long, but just to test that level of Irishness. Tell us firstly your favorite place to visit in Ireland.
I'm gonna say this again. Like I kind of start sounding like a broken record at this stage. So I love going to the alleys in West Cork. I think pretty much every little tiny village in West Cork is my favorite place to go. I think my favorite place would be, there's this little place in, yeah, and near the alleys where they've got this swimming pool. Not a pool, but it's a kind of like a swimming spot with a waterfall. It's a secret location. Not many people
Okay.
can find it, but that is probably my favorite place to go.
You'll
I
have
think
to
anywhere
have
in
to
Ireland.
share the Google Maps live link when you're there next, so it's no longer a
Will do.
secret.
No, I
Um,
will do. Yeah, it is a very secret swimming spot. I think it took us maybe, I think, 3 hours to find that spot. But now that I
okay,
have it, it's a place I will go to. I would go to, like, whenever I have a long weekend off. It's just absolutely lovely.
amazing. Next up, favorite Irish celebrity.
I want to say, well, I think it's probably Killian Murphy. I think he's probably everyone's favorite Irish celebrity at this stage. So, or probably Colin Farrell might be best one. Yeah,
So
movies.
Killian, hailing from Cork, obviously Killian
Hailing
is
from
your
Cork, obviously.
closest person you align yourself to, and then Colin Farrell up from my neck in the woods. Yeah, both obviously very busy at the moment with their latest projects, but two very valid and great choices, and you're in a long list of fans of both of their works. Tell me, in terms of Irish phrases, Irish slang, what have you adopted? What's now in your vocabulary that you're happy to call your own?
Oh no! So that's the one thing I actually, having been here 7 years, that's one thing I still haven't picked up on. I think pretty much the only Irish phrase I know is it? I think thank you, Gorma Agat.
Yeah,
That's the only one I know. I feel so horrible saying that. Like, seven
yeah,
years and I haven't picked up anything. I think I have picked up a bit of the Cork slang, but that's it.
yeah. Share some of your top
You know,
choices of
the
some
usual
Cork slang.
Irishisms of the
Yeah,
accent, but yeah, but still, people still can't figure out where I'm from. Even after
no,
7 years, I still haven't picked up. I think I'm pretty much, I've kind of settled down with my accent and everything, but yeah, I think Gormagat is probably the only Irish phrase I know. That's it.
Yeah, very good. And I know you call Ireland home, but in terms of home comforts from back home, what are those go-to treats or foods that you go to that remind you of home?
So I miss Arabic food a lot. And I think we're very lucky that there are some really amazing places in Ireland, particularly in Dublin and in Cork as well, that have great Arabic food. You know, a good hummus platter. That's like that. That reminds me of home. That's like comfort food to me.
Yeah.
And
Do you have any
lovely
recommendations
locations.
for us?
So you've got this really great place in Cork called Is Cafe. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Great Palestinian food. And then in Dublin, I think you've got Oasis Cafe, which is really good as well for Arabic food. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Great. And I was recently in Shaku Maku in
Mm,
Dublin.
been
If you
there.
haven't come across there, I would recommend that for some good Middle
Yeah.
Eastern food in Rathmines. And but we'll definitely have to try your recommendations next time I'm down in Cork. And moving from there, I guess you're here so long. It probably might be a tricky one to recall, but do you find you yourself, both personally and professionally, have changed since moving to Ireland?
I think I have. I think it's definitely affected or changed the way I kind of approach my approach towards life. How again, having grown up in a slightly conservative society, I think I'm a bit more open with my feelings now, being in
Sure.
Ireland, and it's easier for me to make friends here, converse with people. It's just because everyone's so friendly, and
Yeah.
again, you don't have those coming from a different background. You know, I think it's a lot more easy being you in
Okay.
Ireland, and
Yeah.
people are less judgmental. So I think that helps a lot, and I think I'm more adventurous. I like going out more because you have more opportunities to do that in Ireland than where I grew up. So I think, that would be the one big thing I think, I've noticed that change in myself. Yeah.
Amazing. So being able to just be out and about and be yourself and not have too many concerns about what others think. That's unreal. Come here, for anyone listening, if you were to give one piece of advice, I know you've gone in and you're very good to go through the training program in such great detail and the registration. That what other one bit of advice would you give to anyone listening to this who's on the fence about moving to Ireland?
So for anyone, I think, who is considering the move, but they're still not sure, I would say definitely if you do get the opportunity to take it. Yes, the struggles are there. It's not, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It will be difficult. It will be
Sure.
tough,
Yeah.
but you will have the tools. You will get the help you need. You will find the necessary mentorship, which will help you get through this. And it's not impossible. It just needs a little bit of hard work, and you will get there. People in Ireland, when you come here, you will find the necessary the important people, the good mentors, which will help you through that journey. And if you ask for help, you will get it. So I would definitely say, if given the opportunity, do take it, and you will, eventually find your way through the whole process and get to where you want to be. You're coming to a gorgeous country, gorgeous people, a very lovely culture, and you will get so many opportunities to improve yourself and, improve your future. And I think that's what it's all about. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And you will get there.
Yeah, I think that's a great place for us to finish. And you can take that for any piece of life advice. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to put up your hand and ask a question. I think a lot of people can take a huge amount of value for that. Last one for you. Best part about life in Ireland for you?
I'd say it's Ireland. It's all the lovely places. I make a point to go out pretty much every weekend or every day off I get with my shifts. And it's all the new places that you see. it's just so gorgeous here, and I've been around, and it just hits a different note. And I think it's just all it's the landscape, it's the people. I think that's my favorite bit about Ireland. Like I've fallen in love with it. I think pretty much within the first week I arrived to Ireland, and I'm so glad I made that decision. To move, and you're not gonna regret it.
You were convinced in your first week, and here you are, as I say,
I'm
7 years
convinced.
later, and you're still firmly here. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to resonate with the journey you've gone on, and really excited to hear how you close off that training journey and jump up to consultant in no time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Graham.
We'll see you very soon. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you heard today, please follow wherever you get your podcasts. Want to kickstart your relocation journey? Reach out to the team on our socials at Matchmates.